My husband at the time said he had this premonition that something bad was going to happen. I had worked at the World Trade Center until about 6 months before 9/11. I was getting ready for work, turned on the radio and heard that there was a plane that crashed into the first tower. And, we both thought it was just a small plane because that has happened in New York before. So we turned on the news. We were watching, and we realized it was a really big fire. And and I don't remember exactly, my memory has blocked this out, or I just don't remember whether we were watching television and we saw the second plane go into the second tower, or if I'd gotten to the office and that had happened. But anyway, we had a really good friend who worked in the first tower on the 99th floor. Fran is her name. So we immediately tried to get a hold of her husband to find out, and we couldn't find out what had happened to her. So I thought I should go to work. I got to work, and of course all my colleagues are glued to the windows that are due south and watching the fires and looking at the buildings and horrified. And we hear on the radio that it wasn't just an accident, that it was probably a terrorist attack. And that just took it to a whole different level. And so I was there probably for about an hour, and I was watching the second tower, and I could see the metal on the sides of the buildings start to shimmer and move, and I thought, wow, that's weird, what's going on? And all of a sudden it came down. And my colleagues screamed. There was one woman who screamed really, really loudly, and we still had colleagues that were still in the building, so we didn't know what happened to them. So I decided at that point I wanted to go home. I walked through the streets of Manhattan, and it was kind of like this daze. There's an Imogen Heap song called, I can't remember the name of the song, but she has a really great line in there about stunned faces trying to absorb what's going on, and that's what it felt like.
When you're walking through the streets, what was sort of your feeling? What was sort of the vibe of the city at that point?
Well, it was odd. It was kind of surreal because I didn't know who knew and who didn't. So there were people probably that hadn't turned on television that had no idea, and then there were other people that had an equally stunned look on their face.
Yeah.
In the days and even the month or two afterwards, you could smell the fires.
And how has 9/11 sort of impacted your work in hospice social work? Has it? Do you think it sort of shaped you, led you here?
I think everybody has trauma in their life. I can listen and be with other people's grief and loss and trauma, partly informed by what I've been through. I hope that other people who went through the experiences have people to talk to if they want to, who will still listen. Telling our stories to people who understand and will listen is still really important. It's kind of like if you lose your parent and
right.
People ask you about your parent, and then people stop asking you about your parent. Well, you still want to talk about your parent. You still want to tell your stories.
Right.
But people are afraid to ask, or people can't relate. I worry about that, even talking about it today. I mean, I worry about sounding somehow self-important, and gosh, that's not what I mean to do. This is a kind of a way for me to help process my trauma, to talk about it.
Right, and to your point, I do think that hearing stories of people who've gone through similar experiences, I've always found that helpful as well. And so thank you for sharing this so that others may hear this and get some healing and comfort from it.
That's what I would hope, is just that peace. I want people to have peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.